Welcome to Her Fabulous Financial Future. I'm Shifra, one of the money mentors here at Women's Wealth. At Women's Wealth, we want to be your best financial friend on all money matters. We hope you enjoy hearing about some of the interesting stories from our wonderful clients so that you can learn from their experiences. Hi, Polly. Thanks ever so much for joining me today. Just to give everybody a little bit of a background about Polly. Polly joined us here at Women's Wealth about 18 months ago, and she's very kindly come to talk to us today about her experience of going through a divorce and what it's like having to sort of reestablish your life on a new path. So I'm really looking forward to the chat today with Polly to hear about the wisdom that she can share with us all today. So Polly, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, hi, Shifra. Thanks for inviting me. I hope that I can help out in some way.
You definitely will. Well, just to kind of kick off and everything is on an easy question to start with. I'm sure we're going to get a little bit more challenging through the session. But just tell me a little bit about why you initially were looking for financial advice, following your divorce.
Well, basically, I realised that I had some money and I needed to find a way of how to make the money work for me. I really wanted to invest it wisely, and I had no clue whatsoever. When I was with my other half, obviously he took control of all the finances. So basically I didn't have a clue. And because I got this money, I needed some direction and some way to move forward.
Great. And I'm hoping you'll say that you found some of that direction going forward. So
definitely. Yeah, I have now.
That's great. Well, look, tell me a little bit about the actual divorce process. I think that can be really, useful to kind of hear about your experience, because I'm sure a lot of other women obviously will have to go through a similar process themselves. So tell us a little bit about your story for yourself.
Okay, so firstly, it's a very stressful, very overwhelming. I think the biggest thing for me and for people to do is to basically try and educate themselves on what's actually going on. When you first start off and you get a solicitor, there's so much gobbledygook and you really haven't got a clue. So just taking that time to understand exactly what they're saying and making sure that you're fully aware of what's going on, because it is really overwhelming and obviously very upsetting. But I think just as long as you know what's going on, that way it makes the whole process easier. Obviously, the process can be very lengthy, which is also very difficult. And for me, it took an extremely long time, took about 5 years. But I just try to take one day at a time. And that's the only thing you can really do. But educating yourself on what's going on, how it happens is the best way forward.
And how did you do that, Polly? Did you have other friends who've been through divorce, or
yes.
was it the solicitors that were useful, or did you have to read up on things? Where did you find out all that information?
Okay, for me, I had the most amazing solicitor. First of all, I tried to do it on my own, which, wasn't successful. It was too overwhelming. So I got an amazing solicitor, and anything I didn't understand, he told me. I also had, unfortunately, quite a few friends that had been through the process. So I sat and talked to them. Looking through, when everything I didn't understand, also you Google it and stuff like that. But I think just speaking to people as well and just seeing what their experiences was. I think people also have very different experiences in divorce. And it can be very short, can be very long. It depends, again, on how much money is involved and stuff like that. But yeah, speaking to my friends as well was also a great help. But yeah, speaking to people that have been through the process is probably the best way, I think.
Okay, so probably first started, you would sort of advise people, get a good team in place. You're going to need a good solicitor.
Yeah, and I got this solicitor that I had. Basically, he was, somebody found him for me, and they said, they worked for me. So I said, okay. And I was really lucky. And first of all, you've got to have that good rapport with them and just trust them, because you're coming out of something that's been very emotional, you've lost trust. So having that trust in somebody and having a good rapport is definitely key.
That's fantastic. No, good to know that. So a lot of our clients, Polly, contentious part of the divorce and the financial settlement always seems to be around the house. And a lot of our clients are very worried about, particularly about the children and sort of trying to have the children as secure and sort of safe as possible through a very, very obviously it's a turbulent time. What are your thoughts about whether women should try and keep the marital home or not? So what was your experience sort of going through that process?
Right. So my experience was basically I was lucky at the beginning because I managed to stay in the family marital home for a short while after he'd left. But obviously after that, we had to move. And the most important thing is your children, and you're extremely worried about how they're going to be. But children are very resilient and they do adjust. So yes, I did have to move out of my family home. Obviously, the children were very upset, but they've adapted. I was fortunate enough that I could get another home, and now it is our home. So yeah, I think that is up there with the most stressful and upsetting thing, leaving the home that you were married in. But eventually you get there, and like I say, it's just a case of being resilient, and you basically realize that everything will be okay.
Yeah. No, I think that's really, good advice. I think just trying to be open in the process. As you said, you don't really know where the financial settlement's going to end up for you.
Totally.
So maybe not making promises to the kids at the front then that they're going to be staying in the same house because you don't really know where the settlement will end.
The other thing is, Shifa, with children, you don't really want to discuss too much with them, but obviously they know what's going on. Mm-hmm. So you try and wait until you know what's going on rather than discussing everything with the children, because it is too much for them. So yeah, you're right. You don't want to upset them, but in the end, when you get your house and they settle down, it's great. It's not back to normal, but they get used to it.
Yes, yeah. As you said, like kids are resilient, so that they can get through these things. But the key thing is that they have support around from their family members. And let's face it, our kids need to be exposed to things that. The challenges in life, don't they? Because actually they're more resilient themselves.
And the other thing is, Shifa, is that how old are they as well? Obviously, when they're little, they don't know so much, but my children were at a certain age where they would know. So it's just keeping it plain and simple and just making sure that they understand, but they're okay.
Yeah. No, good. No, thanks ever so much for sharing that. So another key area seems to be around the pension. And whether so a lot of women don't seem to negotiate their pension or access to their husband's pension. Mm-hmm. Did you talk about that with your lawyer through the divorce process? And can you share your thoughts about, is it important to make sure that you look at the pension?
Yeah, totally. This is one of the biggest things that were up there when I was speaking to my solicitor. Pension, I think, is extremely important. And, again, this took a lot of negotiation in the end, but you do have to check every avenue because it's something that you really need to help you live off, basically. So for me, there was quite a substantial amount of negotiation through the pension. And again, I was fortunate enough to have a solicitor who really made me understand, how important it was. And we did push and I was successful.
Yeah,
thank goodness.
That's great to hear. And it's obviously, it's sad because a lot of women don't.
No, they don't. And I think it's too daunting. But you do. You have to push yourself. And you just say, look, if you don't ask, you don't get. And it's a case of just push. Yeah. So, I was lucky.
Yeah. No, and I think just a fact for some of the people listening to today is that a lot of people do talk about the gender pay gap, but the gender wealth gap is much, much larger. So the gender, the average woman's pension is only a fifth the size of a man's because of the choices often we've taken with taking time out of work or having to work part-time when we've had kids and things like that. But actually for a divorced woman, it's only about 9% of a man's pension. So that's, I think you were absolutely right to have made sure. So I think you had a very good lawyer to make sure that was covered. But unfortunately, often women do go in that and don't negotiate that. So that's.
And I have friends that have come out quite badly with the pension because they haven't pushed that forward.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that's so similar experience that you've had from your other some of the people that you know. So tell me, before you went to the throughout the process and everything, let's talk a little bit about the process. You went through mediation, I think, to try and arrange a financial settlement. Can you just talk through what that was like? Was it successful from your perspective and everything? So just give the listeners a little bit of a lowdown on what that entails.
Obviously, when you start the divorce, they don't want you to go. The solicitors really want you to try and sort it out yourself through the help of mediation. And because nobody wants to spend an enormous amount of money going, straight to court and everything like that, because it's very, very expensive. So they want to try every avenue first. And one of the first one is mediation. So with mediation, you try and discuss calmly both your amounts of money and try and sort it out. Unfortunately, my mediation was not successful. So the next route for me was then to try and again sort it out with a solicitor further. And if that was not possible, then we would go to court. But that was right at the very end. So I think I had a friend whose mediation was successful and then they didn't have to go further. But for me, I just couldn't negotiate. I was talking to a brick wall and it was so hard.
Yeah, so I think probably the success of mediation means you'd have both parties willing to negotiate, whereas
totally.
you have a party who's not willing to negotiate, that increases the likelihood that it's going to fail as a process. Yeah. So you did actually have to go to court, didn't you, I think?
Yes. So I went through mediation and then we tried to do negotiation via the solicitor. Obviously, with a divorce, you have to fill out a financial declaration form, which is an e-form, which that is very, very, very time consuming and takes a lot of effort, which we both did. But trying to get information from my ex-partner was quite difficult. And I think that has proven a lot of my friends have had the similar sort of things. I didn't work, so it was easier for me to fill out the form. I gave up work when I had the children, but for my ex, he obviously worked, and so it was harder. And so basically you have to fill out the e-form and then you try to negotiate your way through it. If it comes to a sticking point, which mine did after quite a few years, the only option was to go to court, and which is very scary, but you should have some financial decision in court and then sort it out.
Yeah. And what was that process? You said it was quite scary. So can you just for the what was it like? What was scary about going to court and everything? So
I think here again, another thing is for me, I had a good solicitor and he sat down and told me all about what would happen. So you get scared about the unknown. So if you make yourself wise of what's happening, then it's not so scary. So I was basically had long chat with the barrister the hour or so before going to court. Actually, I was on Zoom because it was in lockdown. So that was a bit weird. But so you have a long chat with your barrister. He filled me out on every single thing that we would discuss and how we would come out with a settlement at the end of the long day. So again, I knew I was prepared. So get prepared, know what's going to happen, and then you feel less anxious. Obviously, you're going to be anxious on the day, but hopefully you will come out with a result. And So my barrister was absolutely amazing. He was so good. And yeah, I felt total support from him, and it made my life a lot easier.
And did you feel like within the court situation, you were both treated sort of fairly? Do you think it was fairly, did you feel like that they were just balanced in the way that they would approach both sides?
So you have a judge who basically says to you at the very beginning, look, in a nutshell, we want to sort this out by the end of the day. He's not emotional at all. It's very matter of fact. He basically says, I want your side, I want this side, and then at the end of the day, you two parties need to sort it out. Once you've come to a decision, I'll agree to it. So that's how it normally works. So you have the two parties hashing it out between you, and then once the hashing is done or the negotiation, then you have the judge make a decision over, yes, that's fair, or perhaps we could tweak this.
Yeah, great, good, yeah. So I suppose it must have been a real relief to finally have got the deal in the end, just to know, because you said you're a whole process. As you said, was it 5 years or something in total?
6 years. So 6 years, my divorce. To be honest, Shifra, the deal wasn't done on that day. The majority, they are. So I had an issue with the deal wasn't done. So I came away thinking, oh God, what's going to happen now? But within 3 days later, the deal was done. So even don't fear if it doesn't get sorted out on that day, it will happen. And it was such a relief, and actually a relief for both of us, because we were going through very stressful situations. And once it was done, it was like, okay, now we can move on. Now we know where we stand, and now we know where all the money's going. Mentally you can really move on.
Yeah, no, that's great. So what's it been like then now, sort of since then, sort of re-establishing yourself, buying the property again, having to do all your own finances again, pretty much all of this. How have you found that whole process?
Well, as I said before, I literally didn't have control of any finances in my marriage. So for me, it was, I had no idea. So that's why I had to reach out to you. I had money. I was fortunate enough that I could buy another property, but I still had some money left over. And I knew for a fact, and I wasn't working, and I knew for a fact that I had to work out how I was going to live, or I just didn't have a clue. So I realized that I have to do something. Now, I know my mum does investing and my previous partner did investing. So I kept thinking, well, the only way forward was for me to invest. I had pensions, I had things like that, but I just needed to know that I needed money to work for me to survive.
Yeah. So I think that's when people realize it's just a tool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Finance and things like that. So did you find the sort of the cash flow analysis that we did with you, did you find that useful then?
Oh my God. Yes, I did. It was so good. I mean, that really, visually seeing something makes such a difference.
Yeah.
Because I could see, and it went up to however old it went up to, I don't know, 87, 92 or whatever. But for me, seeing that visually, knowing how I was to spend my money or how to save my money, how to use my money was so beneficial for me, because I'm not that good with numbers, I'm going to be honest with you. But seeing that made me realize, yeah, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. So yeah, it was brilliant.
No, good. I'm glad that you found that useful. So what do you think's next for you now, Polly? You're all set up. You've got your new house. You've got your financial plan and things like that. What are you looking forward to next then?
Well, yeah. I mean, just it's a big question, Shifra. I mean, I am in such a better place now. For me, I feel I'm in control. And that is something I haven't had for many years. I'm in control. I know where my money is. I know my money's safe with you guys, because obviously that's the other thing I was very concerned about, where my money was going to go. And I know I can overspend, as we all can, but I know that my money's safe with you guys. You would let me know if there's any issues. So it's a peace of mind for me. It's a peace of mind knowing that you're helping me. But for me, I'm just trying to be careful. I'm just living every day and having a good time. I've done my house up. I've got my lovely home now. And yeah, it's so much better. So much better.
Yeah, great. Good. Well, look, Polly, thank you so much for joining us today. I think it was really useful. I think, again, just to hear someone who's actually really gone through the full experience. And as you said, some people don't get quite to court, but as you said, the fact that you did go through that full process, and it's nice and everything, even though it was a very long process and everything, is that you did manage to come through the end, through the other side of things. And you probably learn, they say, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger.
Okay.
And, from the time I've known you, I think, and everything is, you've created this amazing house. You've got 2 lovely kids. As you said, you've got great friends around you. You've got a lovely family. So as you said, in total and everything, as I think, again, I'm really pleased to see that you're, much more settled and that you can sort of look forward to the future again. So
yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience.
Oh, that's fine. I just totally. And I mean, the thing of it is, just don't give in. Just don't give in. Just stick to your guns. Keep persevering. Go with your gut. Don't overthink. Take one day at a time, but don't give in. And it is hard because, and like you say, Shifa, rely on your friends, rely on your family, and just educate yourself as much as you can. I mean, as I say, I didn't really know what the hell I was doing, but now I do. So all is good.
Well, let's hope you're not going to through another divorce, though, at some point in time. Hopefully this is an experience that you won't need to go through again.
Definitely not.
Great. Well, look, lovely to have you today, Polly, with us and everything. And I will talk to you soon. But thank you so much for sharing everything.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. We love hearing your feedback. So leave a review or let us know about other subjects you'd like us to cover. Women's Wealth are independent financial advisors, authorised and regulated by the FCA. Any advice you hear isn't personal advice, and what's right for one person isn't necessarily going to be right for you. So if you want to talk about your own personal circumstance, please visit us at Women's Wealth. That's womens-wealth.co.uk to book a free initial conversation. Thanks very much.